Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, XO, officers, chief petty officers, crew, family, and friends. On behalf of Commander Lewis, commanding officer, and Commander Smith, executive officer of Sioux City Blue, I welcome you to the fiscal year 2020 Chief Petty Officer pinning ceremony. I am Senior Chief Dave Yanbury, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies today. I am proud to present fiscal year 2020 Chief Petty Officer selectees.
And Navy out to sea, fight our battle cry. We'll never change our course, so vicious, oh steer shy. Roll out the TNT, anchors away. Sail on to victory and sick their bones to Davy Jones hooray. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to foreign shores, we sail at break of day. Through our last night ashore, drink to the foam until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Blue of the mighty deep, gold of God's great sun. Let these our colors be till all of time be done. On 7 seas we learn Navy's stern call. Faith, service true with honor over all. Go Navy, Navy Chief, Navy Pride.
Will the guests please rise for the national anthem? Sioux City, attention. Guests may now be seated. Sioux City, parade, rest. We will now have opening remarks from Commander Smith, Executive Officer, Sioux City Blue. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Smith.
Family, friends, sailors here today, thank you for making this a special quick note to the spouses of these two men in front of you today. Thank you. Thank you. I know how important it is with my wife and what she's done for me in my career. Your support is why these two men are here today in front of you today. So I just want to take a special moment to say that to both of you and what you've done to support them at this point and what you will continue to do to support them as they succeed and move forward in the Navy. So no further ado, I just wanted to say that to both of you. Make sure you heard that today. So thank you. Enjoy the ceremony.
Thank you, Commander Smith. It is my distinct honor to introduce our guest speaker for today. Master Chief Jason Stevenor is a native of Peoria Heights, Illinois. He enlisted in the Navy on 1 July 2002. His duty stations include Nyack Sugar Grove, USS Carr, U.S. Naval Academy, USS Chief, USS Gladiator, USS Champion, and most recently served as Senior Enlisted Leader at Naval Support Facility, Poland. Master Chief Stevenor was selected for the Command Senior Chief Program in February 2017 and is a graduate of the Navy Senior Enlisted Academy, Class 198. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Master Chief Jason Stevenor.
Senior Chief, thank you for that introduction. Had you not told everyone my name, some may have fallen into popular belief and thought I was Chief Select Tedrow walking up here. People say we look alike, but personally I don't see the difference. I have way more hair. In all seriousness, let me start by saying what an honor it is to speak to you today as we gather here to celebrate and bear witness to the pinning on the anchors of these two new Chief Petty Officers. Those of us wearing anchors and those who have proudly worn them in the past would be lying if we said we don't flash back to our pinning ceremony every year when it comes time for this day. And we all recognize, as these two new chiefs do, that we would not have had a pinning day had it not been for some very special people in our lives. The love and support of our families and friends, the leadership and guidance of those who have gone before us, and the never-ending tireless efforts of the selfless men and women we call sailors all contribute to the reason any of us are called the Chief. But it is not just pinning day that we remember these things. Good Chief Petty Officers reflect often on their roots and on those that helped them achieve this position, and they lead others into achieving what they too once thought was not possible. As we remember why we're here and where we came from, it's also important to keep an eye on the future. The CPO Creed tells us that challenge is a good thing, that adversity will abound in every Chief Petty Officer's life, and that humbly accepting those challenges and facing adversity are expected of all donning the anchor. Challenge and adversity will most certainly be part of your future, just as the accomplishments and successes of those you lead will be. How will you handle those challenges, and how will you lead your sailors? You will find that there are days that you are pulled in 100 different directions and not accomplish one thing. Some days things will appear to handle themselves, while other days everything will seemingly need your attention. Some days you'll work until everyone else is gone just to get started on the things you thought you'd start that morning. And some days you will deliver what seems to be an unending stream of bad news to your boss, while other days, like today, you get to enjoy great triumphs. But every day, sailors will amaze you with their initiative, their innovation, and their motivation, and will make you proud with their accomplishments. You exist to make sure those amazing, talented, innovative sailors are given opportunities to reach their full potential, and to help them see themselves one day standing in the place you now stand with anchors on their collars. Your job is to turn adversity and challenge into opportunity and hope, and to do so humbly and with that same rare good grace that those before you displayed as they helped transform some of their challenges into what we see here today. The cause you now work for is greater than yourself. The success of your sailors and the success of the mission depend on the Chief's mess. We must work tirelessly to ensure victory for both. And that being said, I think it's appropriate to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite speeches from Vince Lombardi. He said, "I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, his greatest fulfillment to all he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle, victorious." Thank you.
Thank you, Command Master Chief Stevenor. All right, folks, it's the time we've all been waiting for. The time has now come to don the covers and pin our new chiefs. The sponsors are a symbol of their specific support throughout this transition and are a representation of the support and brotherhood inherent within every Chief's mess. These sponsors have guided their charges through the often difficult past 6 weeks and will stand with them today as they begin their journey into the hallowed halls of the Chief Petty Officer's Mess. I will now read the frocking letter for our newest chiefs. Sioux City, attention to frocking. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. Know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of the prospective Chief Petty Officer, we do hereby frock you to Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy, to rank as such from this 13th day of September, 2019. Your frocking carries with it the obligation that you exercise additional authority and willingly accept greater responsibility. Your every action must be governed by a strong sense of personal, moral responsibility and leadership. You will observe and follow such orders as may be given by superiors acting according to rules, articles, and provisions of the United States Navy regulations, general orders, Uniform Code of Military Justice, and supporting orders and directives. Given under my hand this 13th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2019, signed, Wade K. Smith, Commanding Officer, Sioux City Blue, acting. Sioux City, at ease. QMC Parish will now read the Chief's fouled anchor.
The Chief's fouled anchor. The fouled anchor is the emblem of the rate of Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. The fouled anchor has long been the symbol of the Chief Petty Officer. The fouled anchor symbolizes the trials and tribulations that every Chief Petty Officer must endure on a daily basis. Attached to the anchor is a length of chain and the letters USN. To the novice, the anchor and chain and letters only identify a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. But to a chief, these have a more noble and glorious meaning. The U stands for unity, which reminds us of cooperation, maintaining harmony and continuity of purpose and action. The S stands for service, which reminds us of service to our God, our fellow man, and our Navy. The N stands for navigation, which reminds us to keep ourselves on a true course so that we may walk upright before God and man in our transactions with all mankind, but especially with our fellow chiefs. The chain is symbolic of flexibility and reminds us of the chain of life that we forge day by day, link by link, and may it be forged with honor, morality, and virtue. The anchor is emblematic of the hope and glory of the fulfillment of all God's promises to our souls. The golden or precious anchor by which we must keep steadfast in faith and encouraged to abide in our proper station amidst the storm of temptation, affliction, and persecution.
Thank you, QMC Parish. GMC Crumpton will now read the Chief Petty Officer's Pledge.
I'm a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. I serve my country and her people with pride and honor. I seek no special favors. I make things happen and I do the best that I can do. I am charged with leadership, a role like no other in the world. I develop junior officers and mold my sailors. I acknowledge full responsibility for the actions of my sailors, because these sailors are the seeds of future Chief Petty Officers. I live by the Navy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment. I set the example. I establish the standards of performance. My sailors are students, and I am their teacher. I guide and influence the lives of these young men and women. In the final analysis, I will determine the quality of these sailors. They look up to me because I treat them with dignity and respect. Because they need a leader. I am there for them. After all, I am a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy.
Thank you, GMC. I will call each selectee, their family members, and sponsors for the pinning of their anchors and donning of their covers. Will the audience please hold your applause until all prospective Chief Petty Officers have been pinned? Bosun, post the side boys.
Post side boys on. Side boys. Attention. Jump. Left, right. Face.
Chief Select Bailey, front and center. Chief Select Bailey will be pinned by his wife Courtney and ENC Vincente Cruz. His cover will be placed by GMC Crumpler. Chief Bosun's Mate, Mike Bailey, United States Navy, arriving. Chief Select Tedrow, front and center. Chief Select Tedrow will be pinned by his wife Donis and his mother Pam. His cover will be placed on by his sponsor, ENC Cruz. Chief Information Systems Technician, Devin Tedrow, United States Navy, arriving. Side boys, post. Would all Chief Petty Officers, past and present, please rise for the reading of the Chief Petty Officer's Creed. Chief Petty Officers, attention.
During the course of this day, you have been caused to humbly accept challenge and face adversity. This you have accomplished with rare good grace. Pointless as some of these challenges may have seemed, there were valid, time-honored reasons behind each pointed bar. It was necessary to meet these hurdles with blind faith in the fellowship of Chief Petty Officers. The goal was to instill in you that trust is inherent with the donning of the uniform of a chief. It was our intent to impress upon you that challenge is good, a great and necessary reality which cannot mar you, which in fact strengthens you. In your future as Chief Petty Officer, you will be forced to endure adversity far beyond that imposed upon you today. You must face each challenge and adversity with the same dignity and good grace you demonstrated today. By experience, by performance, and by testing, you have been this day advanced to Chief Petty Officer. In the United States Navy, and only in the United States Navy, the rank of E7 carries with it unique responsibilities and privileges you are now bound to observe and expected to fulfill. Your entire way of life is now changed. More will be expected of you. More will be demanded of you. Not because you are an E7, but because you are now a Chief Petty Officer. You have not merely been promoted one pay grade. You have joined an exclusive fellowship, and in all fellowships, you have a special responsibility to your comrades, even as they have a special responsibility to you. This is why we in the United States Navy may maintain with pride our feelings of accomplishment once we have attained the position of Chief Petty Officer. Your new responsibilities and privileges do not appear in print. They have no official standing. They cannot be referred to by name, number, nor file. They have existed for over 100 years. Chiefs before you have freely accepted responsibility beyond the call of printed assignment. Their actions and their performance demanded the respect of their seniors as well as their juniors. It is now required that you be the fountain of wisdom, the ambassador of good will, the authority in personal relations, as well as technical applications. Ask the chief is a household phrase in and out of the Navy. You are now the chief. The exalted position you have now achieved, and the word exalted used advisedly, exists because of attitude and performance of chiefs before you. It shall exist only as long as you and your fellow chiefs maintain these standards. It was our intention that you never forget this day. It was our intention to test you, to try you, and to accept you. Your performance has assured us that you will never wear, or you will wear the hat with the same pride as your comrades in arms before you. We take a deep and sincere pleasure in clasping your hand and accepting you as a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy.
Thank you, LSC. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the newest members of the Chief Petty Officers Mess. Navy Chief.
Navy Pride!
Navy Chief.
Navy Pride!
This concludes the Chief Petty Officer pinning ceremony. Sioux City Chiefs would like to thank you for observing this time-honored tradition. Please follow the official party in congratulating the fiscal year 2020 Chief Petty Officers. all I got for you folks. I would tell a joke, but